Good morning and welcome to our March 2022 customer webinar. I'm Aaron Gillette, Marketing Director at TownNews. At this special follow-up to our introductory YieldUp webinar, Ryan Tornquist, Director of New Revenue Programs for TownNews, will take a closer look at the technology and expertise behind YieldUp, examine the industry trends that led to its development, discuss TownNews' approach to maximizing both CPMs and fill rate, and answer even more of your burning questions. If you do have a question, please feel free to enter it into the Q&A box and we'll answer it at the end of the presentation. During our last YieldUp webinar, we had some really excellent questions that led us to publish a two-part FAQ on our website, so I'm anticipating a lively back and forth. Hope you're ready, Ryan. Take it away.
All right, thank you, Aaron. Appreciate it. All right, good morning, everyone. I'm really excited to be able to present and share additional information regarding our YieldUp program. Felt like the response to the initial webinar was very strong, and we wanted to take a deeper dive into the why behind YieldUp, what we do as far as the ins and outs of the programs, why we run the testing as continuously as we do, and with all of this working towards achieving our goal of improving monetization year over year on a per impression basis. So just to give a quick recap here on YieldUp and what YieldUp is, and the improvements to the program. YieldUp is very much the next evolution of our IQ Ad Ops program. We're continuing to do all the things that are great, amazing, successful today with the IQ Ad Ops program, and expanding and improving upon that. And some of the ways that we're doing that is through guaranteed CPM rates. So what we do in this regard is we're looking at a combination of site quality score, historical performance data, recent trend data. So it's a combination of performance prior year versus recent quarterly performance. And all that factors into the calculation of our guaranteed CPM rates. The nice thing about this is with the guaranteed CPMs is we're taking the risk away from our clients. Today, as you may know, programmatic rates can be pretty volatile, can fluctuate greatly from year to year, month to month. Outside impacts can influence rates that are very much outside of a publisher's control, and in many respects outside of our control. So we wanted to shift some of the burden and responsibility of that risk over to our side of the house. And what we're doing is guaranteeing those CPMs fully 20 days in advance to the upcoming month. So for our April guarantee, we'll have those rates out to all of our participating partners by the 10th of March. And so what that does is that locks in that rate for the entire month. Whether you're up or down to that forecast, we're going to guarantee that. So if there's any downturn whatsoever, any shift in volume, any outside impact from industry trends that may negatively impact rate, we're still going to fully guarantee that CPM for you, once again, regardless of what that actually comes in at, which is a huge benefit to our partners. The other thing, and actually this is probably receiving as equally strong of a response as the guaranteed CPMs, is we're going to pay our clients much, much faster than we do today. So the way it is with the standard IQ Ad Ops offering is we pay our clients and our partners after we're paid from our various demand sources. As many of you may know, that can be anywhere from 60, 90, and in some edge cases, up to 120 days out when we receive the payment and then pay you for previously earned revenue. We're eliminating that with the YieldUp program and paying all earned revenue on a net 30 basis. Helps to improve cash flow, makes reconciliation a little bit easier, might make your finance and accounting departments a little bit happier with the process than what they are today. And that's been a really great, we've had a ton of great feedback on that, and seems to be a really, really strong feature and improvement that we're offering with the YieldUp program versus, once again, paying on the basis of paying out the revenue once we're paid from each of our demand sources. We're still working and constantly improve our advertising technology, and I'll dig into that some more on some follow-up slides here. But I won't say that's necessarily a change from what we do today. We're just expanding on those efforts, right? So we're constantly evaluating our demand stack, our technology stack. The great thing about the program here with TownNews is I mean, frankly, there's many people behind the scenes, admittedly significantly smarter and brighter than I am, that are working to make this a success, and working to make sure that we're continuously improving on the CPM performance month over month and against prior year. And having such a large scale development team and ad operations team supporting the program is really critical to the success of the program. Having the resources available to perform the optimizations, to continue to do testing, to continuously run experiments on our pricing rules and our overall yield strategy results in better performance over time. And those resources allow us to, make the most money per every impression and for every page view that's being served by our publishing partners. So I'm gonna go through some industry trends, and really this is to go through the why of YieldUp. So a lot of these trends have led to us providing guaranteed CPMs, shifts across the industry, and is really a big part of the thought and the process behind why we've developed the YieldUp program, and why we're recommending this over the current IQ Ad Ops program to receive the fully guaranteed rate. So as has been a topic here for a year, if not 2 years or longer, we are moving into a cookieless reality. So with that, there's very much a new approach to targeting and a reemergence of contextual targeting. So the nice thing about contextual targeting for really all of our partners or even potential partners is it's a little bit more on the immediacy of the creative, right? So versus being based on a user's past behavior, past browsing habits, it's based on the relevancy of the content, which is great for many of our partners because they have incredible content from our broadcast set and what's happening within their local markets, from any local news publishers or even niche verticals that we work with that may specialize in a certain industry. That content that they're developing, which is often unique, can drive better performance, better rate, can have content that's able to be matched on contextually. And, with the reemergence of contextual advertising and the contextual advertising approach, we are working with more and more partners that focus on this industry, or excuse me, on this set of inventory to make sure that we're providing as much demand as possible to capture as high of a CPM as we have historically, and more so to work to improve on that CPM over time. In addition to reemergence of contextual targeting, data is becoming more and more important, in particular first-party data. So we definitely work towards driving as much first-party data as possible and helping our partners to capture that data. What we're doing on our end, as far as a cookie replacement in instances where there are no longer third-party cookies available, and for the future where that will be eliminated by Chrome entirely, is we're testing various identity solutions. And we've been testing identity solutions for some time, and really that's been a huge success up to this point. So before I dig into our testing, the results, this is still very much in its infancy as far as across the industry. So that's the one, I guess, comment I would make is I think this is going to continue to further develop. We've already seen growth in the match rates from the various ID solutions that we tested. And I expect that to continue, over time as those match rates improve, as the identity solutions further develop. I expect that performance to be stronger and stronger over time. And we are working to make sure that we're very well positioned to capture that matched inventory through those identity solutions, and make sure that we're providing a premium CPM across all environments, even the cookieless environments as well. So I'm gonna dig into some more specifics about what we're doing with our technology stack today. And I don't think anybody here tries to make it a secret as far as what we're doing. We try to be very transparent with our technology stack, our demand stack, maybe even overly so. And our approach to the demand and technology is speed, efficiency, and maximizing yield. So some of the ways that we do that is we deploy a couple different server integrations, and then we have some tests running with some client-side integrations across a couple different pre-bid instances today. So our standard deployment includes a combination of Amazon TAM and Google Open Bidding. And a couple of reasons behind that, specifically for each one, would be with Amazon TAM, it's no transparent, it's very transparent. There's no latency. There's no impact to latency. So speed is crucial. Often advertising or heavy creatives with the big payload, those negatively impact page speed performance, can have negative collateral impacts on user or performance metrics. So we want to avoid that as much as possible and make sure that the user experience is strong, that there's no delay in trying to navigate through a site. So speed is incredibly key to advertising performance and overall user experience. So with Amazon TAM, there's little to no latency whatsoever. In addition to that, it's a very transparent system. There's multi-slot bidding that's available. So it ups the bid competition across all slots. We've integrated this fully to our CMS. So it's a quick and easy integration that's fully incorporated to our CMS today. Match rates with TAM are only slightly lower, a little bit lower than what they are from like a client-side offering, which is key because you're getting the best combination of speed plus high match rates, which leads to premium CPMs. And then, of course, with Amazon, it's the unique Amazon demand, accessing that through their transparent ad marketplace, tapping into the unique demand. Once again, that is really one of our key strategies, is to focus on unique demand, and the more unique demand that we can push across all of our inventory, the better the performance is going to be. We don't want to see an overlap of just resellers across the board, or same inventory being captured across different integrations or different SSP partners that we have. We want to really push for unique demand because that's what's going to help boost the rates and provide something that's a little bit of a differentiator in the market for us versus maybe other demand sources or other partners that you could work with for your programmatic stack. Then one of the other integrations that we use today is Google Open Bidding. Formerly EBDA, Open Bidding is the name today. Once again, very, very similar reasoning. It's quick and relatively easy way to increase bid competition and enable additional demand sources. Biggest thing is little to no latency, and also it requires very little development. So the speed to set up this for a customer that may be migrating or a brand new customer on our service is quick turnaround. And from the integration standpoint, as far as either Open Bidding or TAM, is relatively a light lift. So that makes it so that the onboarding process is quick and little lead time, or as little lead time as possible, with getting new clients up to speed and seeing strong results with their inventory. It provides great scale. So I would say, while Open Bidding has reduced match rates, the nice thing about Open Bidding is it transacts on a high volume of inventory. So more scale, more bid competition, transacting on a high number of impressions in comparison to other demand sources or overall demand. Really, the only negative is that it does have a little bit of a reduced match rate, and I'll lead into why we do client-side testing as well, in addition to our server integrations. And it is to capture the higher match rate and better CPMs through those integrations, while seeing scale, higher fill performance, and better overall yield through the server integrations that we have today. Really, to sum it up with Google Open Bidding is its ability to match high amount of requests with like a diversified portfolio of demand sources. Excuse me, sorry. And then, so what we're also doing is we have a client-side pre-bid, and we have two different test instances that we're working through and have been working through for some time. I may have even mentioned this on the first call that we're working through these two different instances. And what we're doing here is one, giving a client side deployment to improve on the match rates. And then also, this is the primary location where we're testing various ID solutions. So there's numerous ID solutions out in the marketplace today. We're basically testing all of them, or as many as possible. And we're seeing really, really good success with those tests and those results. The difference between the two pre-bid instances that we're testing is one is a managed solution, and then one is a self-managed solution. So self-hosted or self-managed. As far as variance between performance between the two, I would say it's still a bit inconclusive today. We're still trying to collect additional data to see which instance we move forward with, but very comparable, and both are showing improvement to our inventory set and to the monetization or the CPM that we see on a per impression basis. And then, with the expertise that we have in-house, so that's back to the wider resource and ad operations team. That's what allows us to be able to run multiple integrations, multiple tests in parallel, shift direction quickly. And I think that's key for each one of our clients, because the industry changes quickly. I mean, as we've seen over the last 6 months, the last 2 years in particular, the industry is constantly changing, constantly evolving. Frankly, that's really the only constant within the programmatic industry, is that it is always changing. So in order to stay up to date with that, we are constantly evaluating different demand sources, different integrations, different technology, and we'll continue to do so with the goal of improving our overall performance and the overall yield for each one of our partners. So just to go into this a little bit more, when we look into what we're looking for from a testing and a KPI basis, as I mentioned, we're working with various technology, new demand sources, identity solutions, and working through best practices. And I'll go into the best practices a little bit more on the next slide. But some of the things that we're looking for is, what's key to programmatic KPIs? Well, one of the keys is, protected inventory, right? Brand safe or protected. What does that mean? Well, that means that it's got a good brand safe score or signal that's being passed to the various demand sources. Well, how do we achieve that? We achieve that through our ad quality solution. So we deploy an ad quality wrapper across all of our inventory to ensure that there's no malware, no poor quality ads, no redirects or anything like that is going to negatively impact any performance scores. Additionally, we take every measure possible to filter out sensitive impressions, any sensitive category. So something, weight loss programs, significant skin exposure, politics in some respects, although that doesn't get blocked across the board, but we do block the more sensitive content, the ones that have heavier payloads, and the ones that are known to be malicious or have been reported to be malicious over time. All that is in the effort to improve the quality of our inventory, as far as the demand and what's serving on our client pages. And then that also leads to more targetability. So if we have a higher score overall, then the inventory is a little bit more targetable, and is not being excluded from any sort of inventory or demand list whatsoever. The other thing that we're working towards constantly and evaluating is better viewability. Within our setup, we focus on speed. One of the reasons we focus on speed is it leads to better viewability overall. There is definitely a improved return on CPM performance, the better the overall viewability is per each site and per each slot overall. And then the other thing is with the continual testing and the expertise that we have is we're constantly making sure that we're using the latest technology from an SDK standpoint, even, using the latest IMA SDK, making sure that we're up to date with the DAI IMA SDK, any related SDK that should be used. We're making sure that we're using those and have those in place today. Once again, with the goal of maximizing performance, which I feel I'm on repeat here, but it all kind of circles back to what can we do to improve the return on yield that you're seeing on a per impression basis. Next slide here. So, all right. So some of the best practices that we deploy, and with YieldUp program, these are required deployments and best practices, and I'm going to get into the why for that. So lazy loading is one that is a requirement with YieldUp, and the reason that we make this a requirement is it lends to better viewability. It helps with page speed. It waits for the impression to download until the creative is in view. And actually, in our deployment, it's often when the creative is nearly in view. So that way there's a prefetch option, which helps to improve viewability even more than just standard lazy loading deployment. And it's just less waste, right? Overall, enabling lazy loading results in less wasted impressions and more value for each impression that's being downloaded on your site. So ad refresh is one I enjoy talking about because there's tons of ad refresh technologies out there. And this kind of goes back to the quality of the team that we have here is we deploy our own ad refresh technology with TownNews. It's ad refresh technology that only refreshes when a user has the slot in view, and then also when they're engaged with the page. So there's certain time-based refresh technology that's out there, 20 seconds, 30 seconds, whatever the time-based refresh setting is. There's meta refreshes for a whole page refresh. While those can have some benefit, they can also have a negative consequence as well. If you're refreshing in inventory that's out of view, was once in view and then is now out of view, that's not helping anybody. That's a wasted impression and an overall negative to your performance and site score. So we want to make sure that everything that we're refreshing is truly in view, is truly somebody seeing it, engaged with the site. And then what that does is that helps us to preserve the CPM performance on each subsequent refresh. So there is still a diminishing return on each refresh of an impression. But what we found is with our technology, we preserve that CPM at a much greater percentage than a standard time-based refresh, or even a refresh that may be based on in view, but doesn't have the requirement of being engaged with the page. So we're combining the best elements of refresh technology and making that our standard offering. And then ad placements. This is one that I think maybe not as much conversation goes into, generally speaking, but is one that we put a lot of focus and emphasis on within our program, and is very much a part of the onboarding process. And we provide guidance and consulting on recommendations as far as what's the optimal ad map, what's the optimal template to generate the best performance. And once again, the performance that is being focused on and is crucial to programmatic is the same KPIs that are important for local. Just even basic metrics, viewability, what's the click-through rate? What leads to the most time on page and the highest dwell session? Low bounce rate, anything like that we can do from an ad map or that helps improve those metrics, the better it's going to be for your results overall. It's going to be better for your local advertiser campaigns and see better engagement, better click-through, and hopefully, better spend. But it's going to be the same results on the programmatic end as well. As we improve on each one of those metrics, we're going to see better and better returns over time. And, we're constantly evaluating that. So that is not only from a positioning standpoint, but also from a creative size standpoint and what should be included within each div or ad slot, and what sizes should be in the array. We have a standard set of recommended sizes that we walk through with all of our customers as they go through the onboarding process. But that's something that we can review with clients or prospective clients at any time. Be happy to go through that and make recommendations and offer hey, what would improve your site performance overall? And that is one of the key things with the ad placements and the ad nets. So the success has been frankly overwhelming so far from the YieldUp standpoint. After we launched a little over a month ago, with March being the first full month of guaranteed CPM rates, we do have over 100 domains that are live in March with the YieldUp program. So over 100 domains are going to receive the guaranteed CPM, from the earned revenue that they're going to receive in March. They will have that turned around and paid on a net 30 basis in April. And, we're still offering flexibility with payment options for all of our partners today. So if anybody's used to receiving a check in full check or full revenue in check form, we'll still do that and provide that on a net 30 basis. If somebody's receiving or opting for an invoice credit today, and that way we're covering expenses, majority of expenses, or in some instances, all expenses, we're still able to do that. And we would have the full revenue applied to the invoice on a net 30 basis. And the one call out that I'll make is in the instances where we do cover all other related TownNews expenses, then the full credit would be applied on a net 30, and then any remaining balance would be sent in check form immediately after that's processed. So you would have your invoice completely cleared, and then you would also receive some funds a couple of weeks later as well, which I think is amazing, and is really the goal of this program, right? We're trying to, I don't know, I always view our managed programmatic solution as a way to preserve FTE counts, and maybe that's not always the way to view this. But I very much view it as the more that we can do from an improvement standpoint and a growth standpoint, the better it is for everybody, right? And so more revenue from passive programs such as programmatic, and little to no resources needing to be utilized from the client or publisher end. The better it is as far as resource allocation. And then also, hopefully it's leading to, increased FTE count, or at the very least, preserving some jobs. And as we know, across, editorial teams and on the newsroom side, that's often, in my experience from a news or a broadcast standpoint, where we see shifts if there's a decline in performance. So we're always working to strive to generate more, and yeah, so that's it's been great success. I'll stop there, and I'll see what we have for questions from Aaron, and take it.
Well, thank you. Sorry about that. Thank you, Ryan. Really outstanding results and response in the first month, and I think that speaks to the technology and expertise of you and your team, and also the outstanding job that you've done explaining this to our customer base. So I really appreciate you coming on again and doing this follow-up webinar and taking a much deeper peek behind the curtain of the program. So I appreciate that. If anyone has any questions, so far no questions have come in, and I think that also speaks to how well you've done explaining the program. So keep up the good work. If you have any questions, we did publish 2 FAQs in the past week that are available. If you go to townnews.com/YieldUp, that explains the program in full, and also will link you off to those 2 FAQs. Ryan, if you'd like to advance to the final slide. There are lots of ways to stay connected with TownNews. Help is available at help.townnews.com. You can reach our support team at 800-293-9576 or support.townnews.com. The customer community is a great place to swap ideas with other TownNews customers, and that's at community.townnews.com. And you can follow the status of all of our systems at townnews.status.io. And of course, you can follow us on social media on Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. Hey, Ryan, I did have one question for you. So if someone on this webinar wants to sign up for YieldUp, first of all, they should contact their salesperson. Secondly, at what point, how quickly could they get onboarded in the program, I guess is a question I would have.
Yeah, that's a great question. So two, yes. First, any outreach can be done with a sales manager. If anybody on here doesn't have an existing sales manager, we do have some sign up links available. And then adops@townnews.com is always available as an email address that you can reach out to and send inquiries to as far as YieldUp questions or YieldUp sign up process. As far as onboarding, so there's two scenarios here. One is for somebody that's existing today. So existing, we're managing through IQ program. Little to no time. I mean, we're talking a couple business days. Really, the turnaround is on an updated SOW. So there would be an updated contract. It's pretty light contract, and it's mostly similar to the IQ with capturing some of the new elements of the YieldUp program. So I think for anybody that's existing, that'll look very familiar. Once again, a lot of the language in there was existing on the IQ program. So there'd be a few other items to review. Once that's squared away, we can have this live, I mean, really within 2 to 3 business days. It doesn't take long at all. The one call out that I will make is due to the way that we process and calculate rates. We do have a requirement of starting on the 1st of the month. So for anybody that's coming in, we would get everything set up, taken care of, and in place well in advance of the 1st of April. Be able to provide you with your guaranteed rates as soon as requested, and then as you're going through the contract process. And then we would have everything fully ready to go and be live with the new program and new program terms on April 1st. As far as a brand new customer, there's a little bit more involved with the onboarding process, and our ad operations team has done a phenomenal job of making this as efficient of a setup process as possible. However, it does still take some time to review the setup, to make the changes to the site, to go through all the onboarding. We do utilize Google Ad Manager, so there's some Google Ad Manager training and training on our process as far as booking of orders. And so all together, and I'm hopefully not gonna get anybody to be angry with me, we'd be about 4 to 6 weeks as far as the overall timeline. In many instances, it can be a quicker onboarding than that. But between the initial step of reaching out and reviewing the information through contract process, training calls, full onboarding, you'll be working with not only our ad operations team, but a project manager with that. We're looking at about 4 to 6 weeks in total to get somebody that's brand new set up with the YieldUp program.
Okay, so reach out to your salesperson to get started if you're interested. Can you talk a little bit about how the exact mechanism for sending out payments to customers? Is it a check? Is it how does that work?
Yeah, I think so. We're pretty flexible there. It is a check if a check is opted for. So we can certainly do that. Otherwise, invoice credit is the other available option. So if for some reason, I think it's a preference per partner and publisher group. Some people prefer just to have all the expenses covered and have that applied directly to an invoice, which is definitely doable. And then in alternative instance, we can send a check for the full revenue. So it would be net 30 basis, quick turnaround on the payment. All revenue generated through YieldUp would be delivered through check form.
Wonderful. Okay, well, thank you once again, Ryan. And again, if you want to sign up for YieldUp, please reach out to your salesperson. We will talk to everyone again at the next webinar. See you again soon, everyone.